I really, really thought Kentucky basketball was not going to go out and lose to toothpaste. And yet, tonight, they almost did.
You are Locked On Kentucky, your daily podcast on the Kentucky Wildcats, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, what's going on, Big Blue Nation? Welcome on into Locked On Kentucky, your daily Kentucky Wildcats podcast. I'm your host, Lance Dawe, and on today's episode of Locked On Kentucky, we are going to be recapping Kentucky basketball's, let me make sure I'm reading this correctly, 78-67 win over Colgate. Toothpaste themselves. What exactly happened in this game? We'll break it all down. It's not as bad as you think. Kentucky is in a really weird place right now, both with injuries and just kind of how they approach this one. It's fine. Still weird nonetheless. We're going to break it down on today's episode. Hey, today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. You can continue your season with a big return on FanDuel because new customers can go and place a $5 bet and get started with $150 in bonus bets if they win their first $5 bet. You can check that out over at FanDuel.com if you want to get started. And thank you guys so much for checking out the show today. If you have not subscribed to the YouTube channel or the podcast feed, I would greatly appreciate it if you did so. And if you have any thoughts on this game, leave them in the comments. At Locked On UK on Twitter as well is where you can find me because this was a weird one. So, you know how, if you were watching the preview episode, I essentially said for 20 minutes. We'll just briefly touch on this. I essentially said for 20 minutes, hey, this is a game that Kentucky should win by 30. They should get close to 100. They should score a ton of points. They should get out in transition. They should destroy this team. And that's what concerns me is all of the numbers heading into this one, we're saying Kentucky should win extremely comfortably. But Colgate, in some of their bigger matchups, specifically against Syracuse, they hit threes, they stayed in the game, and they made it a tight contest. This is not as bad of a team as their record says they are. This is a good coach, a team that has made the NCAA tournament 5 years in a row. They are just inexperienced, and they're coming together. Probably next year is going to be their year. They showed tonight that, hey, they may not be the most efficient. They may not be the most athletic, but they are certainly capable of playing on the road in a hostile environment and playing pretty well. I want to give props to Colgate to start this show. This is not necessarily a bash on Kentucky moment. This is a, hey, Colgate just played a good game. And Kentucky, once again, just did not hit their outside shots. Kentucky now shooting 35.5% on the season. That's in the bottom half of the SEC now. It's above average nationally. I want to note that. Kentucky last year, Mark Pope in BYU last year shot 34.8% and still had one of the best offenses in the nation. Kentucky has one of the best offenses in the country because they don't turn the ball over and they shoot an incredible percentage from two, which they continued to do tonight. But Colgate, man, they came out and they played aggressive and they hit some shots in the second half and they made this a ball game. Now, what was really interesting about this one is the fact that Colgate was down 17-0 with like 13 minutes and 40 seconds left in the first half, and then all of a sudden they just started rattling off shot after shot after shot. I was at dinner with a friend, and he jokingly said, it's like after we saw Kentucky get up 17-0 because I was watching it on my phone there, he was like, oh, Colgate's just giving Kentucky a head start. Like they're going to go and they're going to find a way to tie this up. And sure enough, Colgate cut it to 2 at half with a 3, and it was just one of those where it's like, what is going on? Like I was so confused about the effort from Kentucky. And again, it wasn't necessarily like a big defensive lack of energy type of thing. Colgate just hung around and played well enough to win, and Kentucky had a really poor shooting performance in the first half. You go and look at some of the shooting splits. Kentucky, 37.1%, shooting 26.7% from beyond the arc, just 4 of 15 in the first half. Colgate actually shot better both from 2 and from 3. They were 8 of 19 in the first half. 8 of 19. They made 10 threes against Syracuse. For the game tonight, Colgate made 11. That's the story there. Colgate got hot, and then they cooled off. Kentucky was cold, and then they played competently. If you play that game again, Kentucky probably wins by 15 to 20. If They just have a pretty normal first half, which they had an extremely confusing first half after getting up, again, 17-0. They were just dominating at the rim, couldn't hit outside shots to make it a larger lead, but man, what a confusing one. What a confusing game for Kentucky basketball. You come out of this, and I said this yesterday, you come out of this a little concerned about the Louisville game on Saturday, like just a little concerned. But I do want to point out, if you want to look at what Louisville's doing right now, if we're like, oh, Kentucky's going to lose to Louisville, we suck. And anybody out there that has any of those just completely ridiculous concerns, Oklahoma, Mississippi, and Duke, they lost 3 straight before returning home to play UTEP tonight. And they won that game by 3. They won 77-74 over against University of Texas at El Paso. They won by 3. If you have any concerns, again, about Kentucky this weekend, I am confident that Kentucky will win. I know that we missed on our market down prediction. Go ahead and play that because I think it's hilarious to play. I know I missed on that, saying that I thought Kentucky was going to win both their games by 20+, but I still think that Kentucky's going to – I think they're going to handle the Cardinals this weekend. I think they're going to go and make a statement. It's just the energy in this one was weird tonight, man. It was just weird. All right, we'll break down some of the individual performances, kind of exactly what happened for Kentucky in this game that kind of held Colgate, or that kind of kept Colgate in it. I gave this kid praise last game, and there's no other way to say it other than that. It was not a phenomenal performance tonight. We'll talk about this person alongside some other different players here in just a moment. Before we get into that, though, I do want to tell you guys about our friends over at FanDuel. You can tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if they win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL. It's all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats. You can view live play-by-play and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. That's over at FanDuel.com to join today. Again, get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, continuing along here on the Wednesday edition of Locked On Kentucky. Lance Dawe hanging out here with you. I really appreciate you guys checking out the show tonight. If you are listening here tonight after this is getting posted, if you're listening the next day or whenever you are tuned in, doesn't matter where you are, who you are, where it's going on, how it's going on. If you would subscribe to the show, I'd really appreciate it. If you're listening on podcast at Locked On UK on Twitter, if you've got any thoughts about this one, Clint Darden, who's been watching the show for quite some time, lightheartedly pointed out on Twitter, he's like, I'm going to call you out for hexing or putting a hex on this game because you kept calling them toothpaste. And I will admit fully, I don't talk trash hardly ever on this show. This was a game coming into it where I was like, yeah, Kentucky should throttle this opponent. They should throttle toothpaste. 9 out of 10 doctors recommend looking away from this blowout. It's going to be ugly. And it was ugly, just not in the way that I predicted it to be. Ken Palm notes for Kentucky right here. This was a quad 4 victory. Not the best look for UK to get a quad 4 victory by 11 at home, but nevertheless, we move on. Kentucky still inside the top 30 in adjusted defensive efficiency over on KenPom. They are ranked 29th right now. They're top 25 in the country in effective field goal percentage. They're top 35 in offensive rebound percentage on defense, meaning they don't give up a ton of second chance opportunities. They don't put teams on the foul line. They're top 25 there. They're top 10 in the nation in three-point defense, top 75 in two-point defense, and then top 35 in block percentage as well. The only thing that this defense does not do well is create turnovers. They are 325th nationally there, which is just to be expected with the way that Mark Pope has coached his teams. They have almost never been good at creating turnovers. On the offensive side of the ball, you would think with a weird shooting performance, Kentucky would have gone down. Actually, they did not. They held right there at number 9 in the nation in adjusted offensive efficiency, and we'll explain why in a second. But as of right now, Kentucky top 35 in the nation in field goal percentage, effective field goal percentage. They're top 20 in possession length. which just shows you the tempo that they like to play with. They're top 5 in turnover percentage. They do a decent job on the boards as well. Again, like I mentioned earlier, they're in the bottom half of the SEC in terms of three-point percentage at 35.5%, but that's top 100 nationally, which is in the top third of Division I. They are top 25 in two-point percentage. They're top 15 in steal percentage. And they are doing a decent job at the charity stripe as well, shooting 73.4% there. They're doing really well in terms of distributing the ball per field goals made, and they rely pretty strongly on 3s and 2s as opposed to the charity stripe, according to KP. Those are the big numbers that you want to take a look at there. As far as the game itself, with the statistics on offense for Kentucky, they ended up shooting 42.9% from the game, which is just not good. They shot 32.3% from 3, which is good considering what happened in the first half. The Wildcats shot 37.5% in the second period of play, almost 50% from the floor as well. So Kentucky in the second half, they locked in, they knocked down some shots, and it was game. Shout out Otega Dawe for hitting that 3 at the end because I wanted that emotionally. I'm glad he hit it. I did not hit the dunk though, which is a shame. But yeah, the Cats had a good second half. They had a bad first half. And I really, again, I want to reiterate, like, if you're asking how exactly did this happen, Kentucky missed a lot of bunnies, man. They missed a lot of weird shots in the paint in the first half. And some of them came from players like Brandon Garrison. Andrew Carr missed a couple of shots. Let's go ahead and address this here as far as negatives. Travis Perry didn't play well. He had the opportunity to step in here and make a statement because of the fact that Kirk Risa and Lamont Butler are out. Kentucky needs help at guard. Perry stepped in, missed all 4 of his shots, drew a foul, had a rebound, was -1 in 9 minutes of play. He didn't play that well. Trent Noah got some run and actually finished third on the team in plus-minus. He had 11 minutes. He made 1 3, was 1 of 2 from the floor. He had a rebound, an assist, no turnovers, no fouls. Solid. He played decent for just needing people to come off the bench, and it was largely due to the fact that Robinson had to run a lot of point in this game. Robinson played 34 minutes. So your freshman didn't play well. Colin Chandler also did not play well. Him, Chandler, and Perry, they don't handle the ball that well. Like, they don't have, I don't want to say a bag. They just don't have a whole lot that they can go to, which is fine. Like, you don't have to. You just need to be able to make up with it with shooting, and they aren't doing that. They just aren't. Jackson Robinson did not play well in this game. He had a really good second half against Gonzaga just earlier, a few days ago, and in this one, he just played poorly. 11 points, 4 of 14 from the floor, 2 of 11 from 3. Again, with Robinson. Part of it is form. Part of it is shot form. He's just not going to be the most consistent guy from 3 just because of the way that he shoots the rock. But also, I know that he can be better than this because it's the shot selection, man. It's the shot selection. This is what it comes down to for me. With college basketball, man. There are teams like Kentucky where you watch them and you go, okay, they've obviously got they've got a floor, they've got a ceiling, but they could be playing so much more consistently if they took better shots. And sometimes tonight, Robinson took some shots that were rushed. However, he, alongside a few other players, most notably Perry and Dawe, had some open looks. At like wide open, hey, you should hit this, and they just didn't cash in the first half. But it was mostly Robinson who again missed 9 threes. That's too many. That's way too many, man. You gotta play better. You have to play better. 11 points to go with 4 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 turnovers, 2 blocks, and a steal. I mean, he filled up the stat sheet elsewhere, but just not great. Not great. Otega Dawe actually stepped in and arguably ran some of the stuff a little bit better than Robinson did. He had 15 points. He had 4 assists, no turnovers. 6 of 13 from the field, 2 of 5 from 3. Dawe is the most consistent player on this roster. I love him. He reminds me of Antonio Reeves in his first season at UK, which I really do hope spells great things for him next season. He's never gonna be the 3-point shooter that Reeves was, just because Reeves was that was his thing. But as far as consistency and scoring, it just kind of being a reliable option. He's always there, man. He's always there. I do want to give props to the front court, though. They kind of held it down in this one. Amari Williams, Andrew Carr. Amari had 15 points, 6 of 8 from the floor. Missed a couple of free throws that aided Kentucky's 62% free throw percentage. But he's not the best 3-point shooter to begin with, so it's not like it's something that we're going to sit here and knock him a ton on. 15 points, 8 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 block for Amari. He had 1 turnover in this game, and it was a really just like, again, decision-making for this team. If they can just be more consistent, they would be so dominant. But it was like he was trying to flick the ball down inside into the paint, trying to get it past some people, and he couldn't. It's just passes like that, man, that you wish you had back. Because you can be better. You can be better. Let's see. Amari Williams, 15 points. Andrew Carr had a double-double. He had 11 points, 10 rebounds, 4 of 8 from the floors. He was good. 3 assists, no turnovers. 2 steals, a block. I mean, he did everything this game. Plus 19, plus minus. Most valuable player, according to KenPom, Carr, extremely valuable. Extremely valuable pickup for Pope. I don't know if I've seen a transfer portal edition that I've liked this much, where I look at it and I go, yeah, this makes sense. Yeah, this really makes sense. And he's good. He's cooked in the 2 games that Kentucky's played against really good competition and against Duke and the Bulldogs. He's good. You love him. So that's Dawe with 15, Robinson with 11, Brea with 17. I guess we'll wrap it up here talking about Kobe Brea. Kobe has not shot very well over the last several games. And then he lit it up tonight. He made his first 3 3-pointers. He ended up 5 of 8 from the floor, or from 3, 6 of 12 from the floor, 17 points, 5 rebounds, in 33 minutes of play. Yes, there are some defensive lapses for Kentucky, sometimes from Brea, sometimes from others, but he provides you so much offensively that you really want to throw him out there and you really want to see if he's able to do some damage, and he did tonight. He currently leads Kentucky with 3-point shooting with 56.1% from beyond the arc. He's cooled off a little bit, but that's still really freaking good. If you look across the board for Kentucky elsewhere, 3-point shooting, I mean, the guys that are really holding it down right now are Brea, Dawe, and Carr, which is weird because Dawe is not a volume 3-point shooter, and Carr isn't either. Ortega shooting 36.7, Carr 35.7. And then, Almanor is 37% from 3. But Kirk Carissa, Colin Chandler, Jackson Robinson, Brandon Garrison, they're all shooting sub 30%. Butler shooting 33.3%, which I think is slightly better than where he was a season ago. Yeah, it ties his career high, which was 33.3 in his junior season at SDSU. Just a weird start. Just a weird start in this game. You closed it out. You win. Awesome. You've got Louisville on Saturday. Let's lock in. Let's play better there. Okay. That's just, you don't lose. You didn't lose to, you followed my one of my 3 big rules. You don't foul on defense. You take a 3 whenever you can instead of taking a mid-range 2, and you don't lose to toothpaste. You completed the trifecta there. So let me know what you think. It's just an odd one. Kentucky 9-1 for the first time since the 17-18 season, which I just want to point out they lost to Louisville in that season. But anyway, I just want to remind you guys that Kentucky is playing about as well as they possibly could in terms of record and in terms of resume right now. So that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Kentucky. Hey, you can follow the show on Twitter at Locked On UK. You can follow me on Twitter at Lance_. And you can follow the show over on Instagram. That is at Kentucky Podcast. Any questions, comments, concerns, leave those in the YouTube comments below. Hit me on the socials. I will see you all tomorrow for another episode of Locked On Kentucky. Have a great rest of your day, everybody, and God bless.